Man, that looks good. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna be back to work on our 1966 Ford Mustang GT. In the latest video, we did get the car rolled off, so it is a rolling chassis now. And what I want to focus on is today is getting these fenders mounted on. So we're gonna have to build everything up here in the front. And a lot of you guys were wondering how the body is attached to the frame, and I'll show you right here. For now, we just self-tapped it, so was bolted on like that, but we are gonna fully weld it. But we're gonna do that later once we take all these body panels off and paint everything in real nice so we don't have no rust or corrosion. Now, let's get to work on the front. So we did actually do some stuff off camera. We trimmed this piece up right here because we were getting the body perfectly on the frame, and that's why we already self-tapped it. Now it's all nice and secure. And the way we're gonna be doing this is up here, we do have some more metal. We actually just got back from the steel store. We have these square tubing, and this is basically gonna run along here and get bolted onto the fender, just like that. We're still thinking on how we're gonna do it. We're probably gonna have to make a little cut right here so we have access to the strut once we get everything up. So let's go ahead and start figuring out how we're gonna do this. We have this square tubing right here, and as you can see, it fits perfectly under here just like that. So what we're gonna have to do now is trim it down to perfect size, and then that's gonna get welded onto this bracket. So let's go ahead and do some cutting and some bending. So we got this square tubing bent. As you can see, we had to bend it a little bit because the fender actually comes down just a little bit too. And now check that out, it's gonna bolt on perfectly like that. Now what we need to do is start lining up these fenders on the car. We have one bolt down there, and I think there's another bolt we can bolt up on the top. And then after we do that, we can start seeing exactly where we need to put these tubes. So let's go ahead and get these fenders mocked up on the car. We got both fenders nice and mocked up, and now what we're gonna do is actually change the plans. We're gonna grab this bar and we're gonna cut it down probably about here, and we're gonna build it right here, and we're gonna do some trimming right here on the fender so we can have access to the shock tower bolts. So let's go ahead and trim both sides down, and then we'll clamp it on and start drilling the holes for the bolt. So we have the square tubes nice and clamped on here. Now we need to make the mark exactly where we want the bolt, and we have these pretty cool things. They're called rib nuts, and these are gonna slide in through the hole that we're gonna drill, and then you crimp them together, and then we're gonna have the 3 bolt holes here. So let's go ahead and do some drilling and start putting all these in. So we got both of them made. We got all the rib nuts inside. That's what they're called. So if you're ever wondering what these are, they're rib nuts. Let's go ahead and install them. So we got both of these square tubing bars on here. Everything lines up beautifully. Now we need to basically replicate the same thing for the rear section. So let's go ahead and grab some more tubing and do some more cutting. So now that we have this rear bar done and the front one, what we're gonna do now is go ahead and test fit this front fascia right here. And we're probably going to do some trimming on it. We want to get the fascia on there and then make sure all the gaps are right for the hood. And then we can actually start working on the brackets to actually weld these bars to the actual frame. So let's go ahead and do some trimming on this front fascia and get it on there. So as you can see right here, this piece is not lining up with our frame. So we're going to do some trimming on this bracket right here. And then I think it should fit after that. So we got this front grille on there. We did have to do some more trimming down here and a little bit up top, but everything lines up pretty good. Now what we're gonna do is actually start working on getting this bar probably gonna go somewhere just like that so we can support the grille and support the radiator in the front. So let's get some more tubing cut. So we got this piece of square tubing nice and bent. We kind of have to use a medieval way of bending it, just simply clamping it down and bending it. But we got that nice and bent, and we're gonna have to do some trimming on it and make it fit in there perfectly. But before we do that, I wanna actually measure the hood on here and see how all the gaps look before we do any welding. So we got the hood on and all the gaps are looking pretty good. We do have the clamps on back here and that's why the hood is sticking up. But if you look down, the gaps are nice and even all the way through, which means we can go ahead and start welding our front piece on here. And then we're actually gonna have to take it off because we have to do some more reinforcing on the shock towers. So let's go ahead and get this hood back off and weld this piece in right here. So we got this front bar nice and lined up. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab the welder and weld it up. So we got this center bar nice and welded in and it flows perfectly with the grill. All we're gonna need to do is make two little tabs right here to bolt on the grill in the front right there. Now what we need to do is figure out a way to mount this right here to the actual frame. So let's get to work. So what we're gonna be doing here is actually removing the fenders because we are gonna be adding another tube right here as a reinforcement for this top plate. So we're gonna need to cut a tube down and notch it and slide it in just over here and do the same thing on both sides. And then this bracket right here will simply weld to there. And I'm thinking about making another square tube that's just gonna go down right there and that's gonna support all that. So let's go ahead and get both of these fenders off and start making these reinforcements. So we got everything off the car. Now we just need to add the two tubes right here on both sides. So let's go ahead and get them measured and cut out. So we got all 4 tubes notched out perfectly. Now all we need to do is clean up all the surfaces and get these welded on. So now that we got all these tubes welded in here, we're gonna go ahead and get the fenders back on, because we are gonna have to weld these brackets directly under here, probably something like that. So let's go ahead and grab the fenders and start lining everything back up on the car. So we got everything back on the car. Now what we're gonna do is actually start welding it. We're gonna put a couple tack welds right here, and I'm thinking we're gonna do another little bracket coming off of here that's gonna go down to there, to the frame rail, so it holds everything nice and secure. So let's cut 2 more brackets for there and get everything welded up. So we got this front area nice and welded in. Now let's just go ahead and weld the rear end. So now that we have everything nice and welded up, we need to go to the steel store and grab a sheet of metal so we can start cutting it out, because I want to box all this in right here and cover all this up to protect it from the elements. So let's go to the steel store and pick up a sheet. So we just got back from the steel store, but we do have some new shirts going up on the website right now. So make sure you go ahead and check them out. They're not gonna last long. These are some dope new FASTBACK designs. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what we're gonna be doing on the front end. So what I wanna do is kind of box everything up with the sheet metal. Obviously we need to protect all this stuff inside. So I'm thinking we might do a plate like this, and then also a plate going over the top. And once we weld everything together, that's also gonna add a strength to the body. So let's go ahead and grab some cardboard and start making some mock-out cutouts, so then we can cut out the metal with the plastic cutter. nice and tack welded together. We're not gonna fully weld it yet, and we also went ahead and threw on the fenders, and man, this engine bay just looks incredible. We are still gonna be doing some more sheet metal work, but that's gonna be in the next video. And we are still planning on where we're gonna put our twin turbo setup on this car, so we still have to be careful on what we do and what we don't do. And then what we're gonna do in the next video is start working on the firewall in the back over here. We're making some serious progress now that we have mostly the front end done. Everything is bolted on, and then we're gonna start working on it in the rear. We do need to start building the firewall and then start attaching like the dashboard, start building the transmission tunnel, so there's a lot more work to come. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and also visit vTuned.com for some fire merch, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at vTuned. Thanks for watching.